Hello, I have a real treat for you today. It's a conversation with Helen Staniland. Yes, that's Helen Staniland.
I think a lot of people just like the game of being able to have a go at women and call them names. Not even sure that a lot of people who are activists even really care. They just want to have a go at women on the internet.
I think there's a lot of that going on. I think there's also a thing about how it's a fantastic form of social control to make someone say something that you don't believe and that you know they don't believe.
Yes,
But to make them
absolutely.
say that lie and pretend that they believe it, that's so many levels of social control that must be exhilarating actually for people that want to control others. So
yes.
if you assume that there's a certain number of people are, narcissists or whatever, we can pathologize it however you like. There's a group of people who are getting off on the control on a massive scale throughout society of forcing people into either going along with things because they feel that they're not able to speak out at work or in the professions or in the institutions, or to actually force them into a position on social media where they either stand up for what's real and which may lose you friends and may get you banned. I mean, that might be the way that you maintain contact with your friends if you're isolated at home, or you repeat this absurdity.
Yes, I agree actually, because I was banned off Twitter for a good 3 or 4 months, I think, last year, and that was the worst part, and it was during COVID as well. And the cruelty I felt was astonishing. The joy of the other side in when I had been banned. But obviously it's a massive cutting women off from other women from their networks, and it was the sheer joy and celebration about the fact that I could no longer actually have these networks. It really shocked me, because I remember, because it was a trans person called Joss Pryor who had reported me, and then Pryor got banned for a couple of days, later on, himself. But genuinely, I felt that, like, I really didn't want him to be banned off Twitter. I don't really care if he's talking to his mates and having a nice time. People should be allowed to talk to your mates and have a nice time. But because people need their networks, people need their friends, people need their support. But I do think that there's a massive difference there, isn't there? I don't really care.
Yeah, I mean, I'm intensely relaxed about people who want to talk behind my if I don't know about it, I don't know about it. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me. And I don't understand this insistence that if someone's saying something, you need to know, and then you need to challenge them and ask them to stop saying things about you. Let them say whatever they damn well like. It's not going to hurt you. I mean, obviously, if they're libeling you, if they're harassing you, that's a bit different. But in general terms, I have a fairly kind of liberal kind of aspect to the whole free speech thing. I think it's a good thing, and I think it should be encouraged.
But I think it comes back to what you're saying about control, isn't it? It's control over women. It's control over women's lives, women's speech. The joy in breaking down those networks.
But these are often these people that are saying, "Oh, abolish capitalism, abolish the prisons, abolish, all of this."
I know, right?
We want to let criminals do what they like, and maybe they should be curfewed at home after 5 p.m. That's sufficient punishment. And you just think, these are people who will not let women enjoy being on a social network with their friends because of a comment they made 5 years ago.
Yeah,
that's how punitive these people are.
Yeah. I know.
And yet they're claiming that be kind, and abolish all these. And you just think, you're looking through the wrong end of this flipping thing. The sailor thing that what they call telescope, like the thing that they use, and they're looking through the wrong end. They're like expanding this tiny thing, and they're making small a thing which really we should make it.
Yes, it's I've never come across such an authoritarian as you say, punitive movement in my life. This isn't a movement for civil rights. This is an authoritarian, controlling movement.
Well, Sheila Jeffreys had it right, didn't she, when she said, you know, that transgenderism is a men's sexual rights movement, you know, and
Yes.
that's the truth of it, you know, and
Yes.
we've dodged around the houses enough with this. And I think it's got to the point now where women are like, every single woman comes into this movement and goes, oh, those people seem to be a bit brutal, and, you know, I'm going to try, there must be a compromise. I'm sure that we can all sit down together and work it out. And you realise after a while, as you said, you know, nobody's looking for a compromise on the other side. You've just got to be really boundaried and say what you want is something you're not getting, you know? And that's the problem, agree. Is that we've been
too, I mean, I see people say all the time, you know, educate yourself, be nice, and then the answer is I did educate myself, and I was nice, and this is why I've arrived at the position that I've got.
Absolutely, because it's through educate. Because I mean, I remember thinking, well, yeah, I don't have this gender identity, but maybe there's something that some people have. I mean, it's possible that there is a feeling that some people have that I don't share, that's called a gender identity, and maybe it's a thing that's, you know, that's a real thing. Yeah. And I honestly, in good faith, I looked into it, and I could find absolutely no evidence either of any kind of commonality between people that claimed the same gender identity, or any commonality with a group of people that they were claiming they were like, or any kind of dissimilarity with people who didn't have that claim to identity. Yes. So, you know, my ultimate conclusion was that it was a load of baloney, you know.
Yes, but and honestly, even if
you know, if someone
if people do
convincing evidence, then yeah, of course I would reconsider that view. But so far, the best I've got with it is, you know, this is actually a load of baloney to defend a kind of vanguard of men's sexual rights.
But honestly, even if people did, I mean, I don't really care if people do or not, but I do care. But I do care that we don't legislate on it. Obviously,
not until we can define it in law, eh? I mean, it would seem to me like if we're going to grant a group of people this special status and this access to kind of women's spaces, it would be good if we could draw a clear boundary around that group of people and say these people, but not everybody.
Or even a boundary with little fuzzy edges, but some form of boundary that we can define properly, that we can test, maybe.
I mean, wasn't it incredible? I don't know if you saw the House of Lords debate on Lord Blencathra's amendment, but there was one of the Lords stood up and said, you know, actually there've been no sexual assaults since 2019.
Yes.
But actually, even if there were rapes and sexual assaults, that wouldn't be a reason to change the policy. And you just think,
I know. I mean, this is the point, isn't it? You have to be really wary of people asking you for evidence for things, because often it's just a way of stalling the conversation again, because even if there is evidence, it's like, oh, there's only one or there's only two. You know, I think that the conversation is far better sparked as, you know, what is the level? Where is this line? But I mean, and it's the same with, you know, talking about changing rooms in prisons, etc. I don't even think that we should be defining it in terms of rape. You know, the bar for women and girls isn't not assaulted or not raped. The bar, I think, as fully human beings, the bar should be a little bit higher than that. I think we should be allowed to say, actually, the bar is, I say no, or, you know, peace of mind, just the bodily autonomy, to be able to state who I allow to see me naked. You know, even if they're the nicest people in the world, and I know full well they're not going to rape me, if it's like a really good friend of mine who lives up the road, still, I'm not going to want to change with him in a communal changing room. That's it.
Yeah. And no one thinks that's weird. That's the thing. And then everyone
I know, right?
pretends that it's not really weird if they suddenly claim to be trans.
Oh my God, you want to use a communal changing room? What's wrong with
some kind of pervert?
Yes.
And also, the other thing I wanted to say about that was the issue of prams and toddlers. You know, then people say, well, why are you going in communal changing rooms?
Yes, use a stall. Use a stall.
Children, God knows. Have you ever done a swimming party? I mean, good God, you know, the whole entire changing room is full of mothers and prams and children. And
yeah,
it's
and mothers looking after other people's children, like stopping somebody's child from running and sort of playing in the gutter of the water. Yes, I know.
Go to the toilet on your own because another mother is going to look after your kids for 5 minutes. Oh,
yes, it's very clear that a lot of people who answer this question disingenuously have never had to take a child to a changing room in their life.
No. Yeah, it's very clear, isn't it? So, how did you get involved with the mess that we're in? Because I watch it on a Wednesday frequently, and it's always really good to see you sitting there and presenting the kind of the feminist perspective, because otherwise, like, that would be a big hole in the programme, I think.
I sort of fell into it, really. I think, like, Graham had started it with Artie and Benji, and then I think Benji left to start their own YouTube channel, and I'd been talking to Graham a bit on Twitter, and he'd actually just done an interview with me, you know, around the question, and so we had an interview, and I think he probably thought, oh, I'll ask Helen, and so I said, well, I'll do a couple of them. I mean, I wasn't particularly that sort of keen or comfortable, but I thought, well, I can do sort of one or two. I thought, I mean, I've got a little bit to say. I haven't got that much to say, but it was in COVID, and I think it worked out quite well, because I think I couldn't have done it had it been a period of time when I was actually going to work every day, because I wouldn't have been back until sort of 7 p.m. But throughout COVID, I think it worked quite well, and I was quite happy to do it, because the format is quite good in that you have a live audience who can also, they can comment, and they talk to each other and they talk to us, and it feels like a nice sort of, you know, just sort of going to the pub with some people, and that's quite nice. And yes, and it is quite nice to have a feminist perspective, because you've got a chap's perspective, and then you've got Artie's gay man perspective, and then I think you've got the feminist perspective, which I think works quite well. You know, it's a light-hearted show, just talking about what's going on. You know, it doesn't necessarily dig really deep down into a lot of the issues, but it's worked out quite well.
The same thing, does it? We're allowed to have different things. So I wanted to ask you what's next for your activism, but I also wanted to ask you, because I've been looking at this picture of you, being done by the famous artist Birdie Rose. You've been immortalised as one of her posters. What's that like? I was going to get one, and then like show you it in a frame.
Can I do a poster
on the wall here?
You know, I was going to get some for the kids as a joke to take to uni with them. They'd have been appalled.
That's so funny. I think it's really, really lovely. I think it's really lovely.
But I think that whole sort of market industry that's sprung up with women, I think that's been brilliant, hasn't it? All these women making connections, a cause, and people who have come along who might not have even done any feminist activism before, have come along, has seen this, and have got really fired up. And there's, you know, people are selling things, and we can support other superb, but we can support other women, just making a little bit of money as well and have some fun. I think it's been absolutely brilliant.
Good of women, isn't it? It's such a flipping passing opposition that we're up against. They really seem to have a problem finding things funny, finding the ridiculous in the everyday. And of course, you know, by the time you've dealt with several children going through, you know, potty training and goodness knows what else, you've got a fairly well-honed sense of the bloody ridiculous. And,
yes, you have.
You know, women
you have.
Are so funny. They're just so funny. So whether it's the
I think
or cartoon,
I think we've said many times that our side is definitely the funniest side, with the intelligent humour. No question.
If you had to go to the pub with the other lot. Can you imagine how deathly that would be? Anyway.
Whereas going to the pub with extra women after an event.
Oh, it's brilliant, isn't it?
It's so good. So much fun. So much fun.
It's hard to tell if that's partly because of the fact that we're British, and so it's kind of our British culture that is something that you do, is you can go to the pub with people, and maybe that's not true elsewhere in the world. But I think also it's about the fact that we're fairly close to each other geographically, so we can all kind of, like, I've been to London many times and, you know, met up with women from all over the country, and we've all kind of congregated in some pub somewhere.
You know what, Claire, I actually think that that's a really, really good point. When people talk about, you know, Terf Island and how have we managed to become this sort of centre point of women's activism around this issue. I think that is massively part of it. I mean, I think that there are other things, you know, like we are used to grassroots activism, you know, unions, etc., and grassroots politics. But I do believe that the proximity is definitely something. I mean, I think there are a lot of American women who have connected on Twitter, but it's very difficult to go and support them, isn't it, in actual locations.
Yeah. It's just the amount of time you would have to arrange for somebody to be picking up the kids. And, you know, if you're going to be catching actual aeroplanes to get somewhere and staying overnight, possibly for several nights, it's just out of the question for a lot of women. So I really hope that as the movement grows in America and elsewhere, you know, and you get a significant population in a town, that people will do things locally and try and build up connections, because I think it's kept me going more than once to just know that, you know, you've got that to look forward to. And, you know, by then this will be a funny story about that time when, you know, this thing happened.
That's right.
This consequence.
And you know, and even if it's still terrible, we can at least drink to it.
Absolutely.
We can at least drown our sorrows with other women.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I'll look forward to seeing you in the pub then sometime soon. I'm still grounded with COVID. I'm not making it out anywhere at the moment. I still feel quite kind of, you know, a bit hermity. I don't know why, because I've had my 3 jabs and I've had flipping Delta variant, so I should be all right, but I still feel a little bit anxious about it. So
well, I'm hoping come springtime. I mean, it's unpleasant now anyway, but come springtime, I think
nights grow a bit lighter. It makes you more looking anyway, doesn't it? So I'm hoping that in the spring I'll be there. I'll be there.
Yes.
So that's great.
I'll be there too, wherever there is.
And thank you so much for giving me some of your time to do this interview.
My pleasure.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Helen.
Thank you very much.
Helen Staniland is a remarkable woman, and I'm very proud that she has appeared on my channel and had such a lovely chat with me today. I hope you enjoyed it. See you again soon.